Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, where I'm living, and I'm hoping everybody's having a wonderful morning and had a great weekend. I wanted to touch base on a couple of things before I get into the actual comparison today. As the video title will tell you, it's a comparison between the LCD-2 Classic versus the LCD-2 Closed. And this is, I think, going to be a fairly interesting comparison. Both of these headphones are brilliant in what they do. This particular comparison is only going to be for the review of the Closed. I have not done a review of the Classic, so that's going to be a separate review whenever it comes. I'm just comparing the headphones with respect to some of the sonic signatures, the closeness and the separation between the way that they show the music, the way that they pronounce the music to the listener. Now, I'm having my cup of coffee, and I wanted to touch base on a couple of things, as I said. Number one, I am somewhat interested in this Q style headphone amplifier, CMA 400i. It's interesting because it's got balanced as well as single ended. It's got a built in DAC. It's fairly interesting. It's very well built. It's a Chinese company as far as I can tell, but it's well regarded in the audiophile community. It's not super expensive, but it is relatively expensive. So I don't know. So this might be something that I might get, I may not get. This is basically high mid-range headphone amplifier. High mid-range, I would say anywhere between $500 and $1,000. That's basically mid-range, but this is the higher end of that mid-range. Low mid-range, low mid-range would be probably anywhere between $350 to $500, and anything less than $350 is probably low range, in my opinion. But everybody's opinion will change. Now, that's one. Number two, something is coming. Something is coming this coming week in a few weeks, no, a few days. Something I've been waiting for 6 weeks now. And I'm very excited. You should be excited. This is it. This thing is coming. The Audeze from ZMF. I have finally gotten a shipment notification. This headphone is shipping to me. I will have it in a few days. And I cannot wait to get these headphones. They are gorgeous. I mean, they're very expensive, but they are very, very gorgeous headphones. This is the type of headphone I imagine one should listen classical music that has been immaculately recorded. Okay, so if you have FLAC files and your hard drive is full of these classical songs and you want to be immersed in it, then you go out and you buy a $5,000 amplifier that is made of gold and has all sorts of wonderful features that nobody else knows anything about. There's copper and silver and beryllium and all sorts of other materials that are involved in the making and the use of this particular amplifier, even though it makes no difference in the sound. But you, because you love your music, have gone out and spent $5,000 on it. This is a pair of headphones that you would pair with that amplifier. So I think. Anyway, so this is coming. Review is going to happen of this. I'm very, very excited about it. So number two. This is a sure thing. The Q style, not so sure, but this definitely is a sure thing. The other thing I wanted to point out is the Verum ones. This is something interesting. These are incredibly ugly headphones. Just look at this guy. He looks like he has rabbit ears on. I'm not really convinced that this is a pair of headphones that I would invest my money in, but it's interesting because it competes with Audeze and it competes with Monoprice's M1060 series. It's made in Europe. I think it's made in the Ukraine. And it's planar magnetic. It's hand built. It looks ugly. There are a few build issues that people have talked about, but what people have consistently said about this headphone is that it really does compete with the LCD-2s as well as the Hi-Fi Man Sundara, beats the Sundaras apparently. And on top of that, they are, wait for it, How come? There he goes. $350. Brand new, hand built from the Ukraine. I think it's the Ukraine. Isn't that amazing? $350. That's basically the price of an M1060. You may like the M1060 styling more than this. That's a personal preference. But what I've been listening to and reading online is that these headphones really do perform better than the M1060s. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. You get 3 different versions. You get 2 styles of wood. I can barely tell the difference between the wood styles. The only big difference I see is that the Zambrano wood has a silver cover and the Bubinga has a gold cover, which I, fine. And then there's the carbon, which is in black and white. I don't know why the carbon is in black and white. This takes about a month and a half, 2 months before it'll ship. But that's not so bad because I waited almost 2 months, maybe more than 2 months for the Tours. This is interesting. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, moving on. The actual test. Today I'm going to test the 2 Audeze headphones using the Audeze amplifier, the Deckard, which is not sold anymore. You have to find it used on eBay, and if you're lucky, you'll find it. The Deckard itself on eBay goes for anywhere between $600 to $700. Don't pay that price. The original marketing price for this headphone amplifier was, I think, about $400, something like that, $400 or $500. I paid substantially less than that. No, but I lucked out on the bid because nobody else was paying attention. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to keep the amplifier at low setting, probably. You know what? I'm going to put it to mid. I'm going to put it to mid gain. Input is through USB. It's using the internal DAC that's involved here. And we're going to start playing the music. Okay, so let's start with Sleeping at Last, Atlas Space. And let's start with Moon. And by the way, I have the LCD-2 closed on. Volume knob is at about 9 o'clock. Medium gain. Very soft music of piano. I don't pick up much detail. I'm going to increase the volume to 12 o'clock. And now at 12 o'clock, there's more detail. There's a little bit more airiness. And I hear things in the background, like way in the background. So clear soundstage, left and right, forward and backward. I'm going to switch to low gain, keeping it at 12 o'clock. And at low gain, the volume has obviously decreased, but also that background detail is gone. I'm going to go to high gain. And I think this is where I'm going to keep the amplifier as a high gain. It's about 10 o'clock. Everything is very well separated in the music. There's like this talking something in the background of the music. It's like undertones all the way in the back. You can barely hear it, but if you increase the volume, it'll come out. Very good separation of all the instruments and the vocals. And as far as the soundstage is concerned, I would say that there's the background talking. It's very, very low. It's all the way in the back. And then right in front of that is some piano. And then right in front of that is the primary vocalist. And then right in front of that is another piano. Now, I'm not saying there's multiple pianos, but that's just the way that it seems to be presented throughout this song. Right now, the piano is the focus. It's coming in very clear, very, very soft and smooth. There is no harshness to the piano at all. And there, I can hear this build up to the song, and the vocals have just come in. And there are certain portions of the song where the pianist is really pushing down hard on the keyboard, and I could hear the thump as the key hits the bottom of the keyboard, and that those are details that just add substance to the song and the way you listen to the song. It's very nice. Okay, let's stop that, and I'm going to switch to the classic. Now, the classic, as you might know, is an open back version of the LCD-2s. I believe these are pre-phasor design, because people didn't like the phaser design, the initial phaser design. Phasers are basically just wing inlets. It's an addition to the inside of the ear cup that channels the sound waves in a particular way. That's what they call the phasor. Some people did not like it. A lot of people complained about the drivers being faulty because of the way that Audeze had implemented it. And so they changed the phasor design, and now they have the newer versions in the headphones that Audeze sells, I think post 2015. Those seem to be very good and fairly problem-free, at least in my experience. So the LCD-2 Classics are headphones that have been re-released with the older designs, not the problematic phasor design, but the older design, pre-phasor, as far as I can tell. Let me double check, because I don't want to say something that turns out to be absolutely wrong, because why would I do that? That's why we have computers. Let's see. Comes with lightweight suspension, yada, recommend. Okay. Yep, original LCD-2 driver. So, where does it say that? Signature of the original LCD-2 driver. So I think this means that this is pre-phasor. LCD-2 Classic, pre-phasor. Is that true? Yes. Yes, that seems to be the consensus. Okay, so figured out that non-problem. All right, so the classics are in. The volume is still at about 10 o'clock. I'm going to start again with Moon. And the song is just more open, obviously because it's open back. There's zero sound isolation, noise isolation from the outside. The sound is a little bit thinner than with the closed, at least at this portion of the song. The detail is still there, though. Like there's clear soundstage left and right, and there's depth to the song, so forward and backward soundstage. It's strange. I feel as if the piano reproduction on this is a little bit better than on the closed. I hear more of the thumping of the keyboard on this than I did on the closed. I still heard it on the closed, but it wasn't as pronounced. It certainly feels more enjoyable on the classic. It's a very soothing sound signature. If I had to immediately tell you the difference between the two, other than the open back nature and the closed back nature, is that the classics seem to have a warmer note to it than the closed. The closed seem to have more clinical sound signature than the open back classic. Just a soothing soundstage everywhere. No sibilance at all, and no sibilance in the closed either. Very nice, soothing, soft. I feel as if the piano reproduction on the classic is more enjoyable, but not as clinical as it was on the closed. So on the closed, it's slightly more sharp with the piano strikes. Not sibilant, not hurting the song or my ears, but just a little bit sharper. Whereas the classic kind of dulls out just a little bit of the piano strikes, and that adds to the enjoyability. Excuse me. That adds to the enjoyability of the headphone. You're listening to this song, but it takes away a little bit from the detail. And so if you're hunting for detail, the classic is not going to deliver all the detail. It's not. That's not the design of these headphones. Okay. So while I still have the classics on, let's go to my test playlist and let's listen to Angel. Let's do a bass test. Let's do Angel. And the app is still at 10 o'clock. I haven't moved it. I haven't needed to move it. Here we go, Angel. And the low rumble comes in. It's flat. It's a much flatter response than in a lot of other headphones that I've had. So I've heard this song many, many times. And if you've watched all my other videos, any of my other videos, then you know that this song is one that I played regularly for sound tests because it has such low end response. And so I am fairly familiar with how this song should sound. On the classic, it's very thin. The bass response is very, very thin. It's there. Obviously, it reproduces the bass, but there's no real rumble. Whereas in other headphones, open and closed back, I get more of a rumble, more of this meatiness throughout the song. On the classics, it's hollow in a way. The vocal is fine, it's clear. There's no bleed through in any of the frequencies, so it's not as if the low end is creeping into the mid range or anything like that. There's good separation, there's good soundstage. Everything is fairly well detailed. It's just that this is not a bassy headphone. I'll increase the volume to about 11 o'clock. Yeah, it's a great headphone to just listen and enjoy this song. I'll bring it back to about 10. So one of the things with Angel is that with really bassy headphones, for example, like the Monoprice Retro with a pad change, if you listen to max volume on those headphones with this song, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to get a headache. At least I did when I did that test. I did it for a couple of hours. In comparison with the classic, what's going to happen is because there's so much room and depth and airiness, the bass the frequency is not hitting your ears and impacting the inside of your brain. It is much more enjoyable in that sense, where you just want to lay back and relax and listen to the song. But if you're a bass head or you're looking for a powerful bass, generally the classics are not going to give it to you. You will get bass response. It'll be fairly accurate bass response, but it's not going to be meaty bass. Clear soundstage, left and right, forward and backward. All the instruments are well separated. Everything has good detail. Okay, so let's switch. All right. So part of the problem with tests like these, with big headphones like the LCDs, is that you got wires going everywhere, and all the headphones are just kind of, ugh. All right. Much better. Clear sound isolation, obviously, because it's close back. I have the closed back on my head, and we're going to do Angel again. Volume is at 10 o'clock. Let me check. Yeah. Volume is at 10 o'clock. Here we go. And that rumble, it starts off quietly, but I can feel it more than I can hear it initially in the first 2 seconds, which I couldn't do with the open, with the classics. The bass impact is more robust, and there's more detail in the bass. Some of the electronic cymbal hits, whatever those things are, much more detailed than in the classics. There's good separation with the instruments. There's layering in the music. And when I say layering, what I'm basically talking about is the soundstage. When you're looking at a stage, let's say you're at a play, for me, layering means from back to front to the front of the stage. So if you have actors in the back, a little bit in front of those people in the back, then you have actors in the middle of the stage, and you have actors in the front of the stage. That's what I call layering. It's like a sandwich. And there's clear layering in both this headphone as well as the classic. There's the rumble at the very bottom, or the very back if you're looking at the stage. And then on top of that, there's this kind of electronic mojo that's going on. And then on top of that, there's the vocalist, and then on top of that, there's a little bit more bass. It's all well separated. Nothing bleeds into anything else. And once again, the classics are warmer headphones. The LCD-2 closed is more clinical, and it sounds more metallic to me than the open back did. That doesn't mean the song is bad or anything, or that it's not producing the song well. It's just the signature that I'm getting. And the reason it sounds so cold, so metallic, is because it's more analytical to my ears than the classics are. I'm going to increase the volume to 11 o'clock. So with the increase of volume to 11, more detail starts coming out, and the headphones just reproduce the song very pleasantly. The bass response is there, more than the classic, but not as much as, let's say, the Fosix TH900s. Definitely not as much as the EMU Teaks or the Denon D2000 or even the Meze 99 Classic. I think those all have low-end emphasis, whereas the Audeze doesn't really have an emphasis on the low end. There's a slight bump, but definitely nothing like the other headphones I just spoke of. Okay. So what's my impression between the headphones on this song? Bass response on the closed is much better than the bass response on the classics. And here are the reasons why, in my opinion. Number one, open versus closed. When you have closed back headphones, what tends to happen, generally speaking, is that the sound waves impact the inside of the ear cups and then emphasize that lower frequency. It actually hits your ears with more impact because it's reverberating inside bouncing off on the inside instead of just escaping. So when you have an open back, what happens is you hear the sound and it just it just finds its way out from the padding into the outside world, obviously. But with a closed back, sound does escape. It will always escape, because what happens is, when you're talking about physics, Sound waves, air, when it hits the inside of the closed back, that energy, portion of that energy hits the ear cup, which then resonates the atoms inside, which then resonate outward into the air outside, and then a person outside will in fact hear some of that music. And how are they hearing the music? They're not listening to the headphones. How are they hearing it? How is it propagating outside? Let us assume that there's a very good seal on the headphones to your head, which the closed back LCD-2 does have. So how do people outside hear it? Well, what happens is that as the ear cups are resonating from the inside out, and the molecules, the atoms are vibrating, they transfer that energy from inside in the air on the inside of the ear cups to the ear cup material itself. That begins to vibrate atomically, and then that moves the air and it just propagates out. And when it gets outside, because it's going to happen, when it gets outside, the atoms and the molecules outside and the air starts vibrating in a similar frequency. And that's why people outside standing next to you can hear the music. Of course, what goes hand in hand is whether there's sound leakage from anywhere else in the headphone. Yes, that's true. Absolutely. What contributes more? Well, the sound leakage will obviously contribute more than the propagation of the sound waves from inside to the outside. Physics lesson's over. Now, compare that to an open back pair of headphones like the Classic. What happens is that all the sound wave just comes right out, or not all, most of the sound wave comes right out. Some of it is trapped in with the padding. And that's why when you create a pair of headphones, you have to put in a lot of effort to make sure that the padding is just right. You're letting out just enough air, but keeping just enough in so that you actually pick up the frequencies in the appropriate manner. So what the Classics do is, a good portion of that bass frequency and a lot of the other frequencies does escape, but some of it gets bounced back into your ear, and some of that, when it gets bounced back, you hear that bass response, but you don't hear it as well because most of that energy is also propagating out of the headphone. Now compare it to the closed back. A lot of that energy is still kept inside. Not as much of that energy propagates out. So what does that translate to in real world? Well, in the real world, what happens is what I explained to you at the very beginning of my listening to the closed back. Excuse me. The first 2 seconds of Angel. The first 2 seconds of Angel has this low rumble. It's below my hearing threshold. It may not be below your hearing threshold because your ears might be better than mine, but it was below my hearing threshold. But you know what the difference was? I felt it. Even though I couldn't sonically pick it up in my ear canal, I could still feel it in my head. That is a scientific thing. That's just not wishing. That's not me pretending. That's an actual thing. Because the sound wave, it's still coming in. Even though my ears will not pick it up because they're not sensitive enough anymore, or they're just below my hearing threshold or a human hearing threshold, it doesn't mean that it's below the ability of your head to acknowledge that there's a frequency. So when the sound waves enter your head, there's fluids inside your ear canal, there's fluid inside of your head, there are papillae and there's sensors all throughout, neurons all throughout your head. And when the liquid inside your ear canal in your head, it starts vibrating, those things will get picked up. Now, you may not be able to hear it, but you will be able to feel it. So that's what happened. The first 2 seconds, I felt it on the closed back. I didn't feel it on the open. Part of the reason is that the closed back will resonate back, reflect that energy back into my ear canal. Whereas with the open back, it just kind of lets it out. And so there's less of it to come back in to my ear canal, less of it bouncing back. And so less chance of my head actually feeling that low, low, low bass rumble. That's what reality translates to, okay? So we got the physics lesson, we got the reality, and they go hand in hand. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, so what next should we listen to? Let's do, I hate to do this, but fine. Let's go to Dreamer. You, if you've been on my channel before, you know how much I hate this song. But it's a good example of really poorly recorded songs by less than talented artists for a song that has no reason to exist other than the fact that it's there. That's a lot of electronic nonsense. And the voice for this vocalist is harsh to my ears. It has been harsh on every headphone. So, we'll do the comparison. Here we go. Volume is at 11 o'clock. Low rumble. Clear separation left and right. Ugh, her voice is so awful. There's layering. There's a bass at the very back that sounds just distorted, but not because there's headphones, because this awful song. It's the type of bass that you find in somebody's car. Those people with not enough money end up buying a used Honda, and then they decide they're going to spend all their hard-earned money from working at McDonald's and put it into a bass system that they're going to put in the trunk of their car, and they're going to finely tune, and I'm air quoting finely tune, so that the bass is just rumbling whenever they're driving by my house, and park their car outside as they talk to their homies, and the bass is just rattling my eardrums and upsetting the dogs, and I feel like I need to go outside and beat them with a rusty spoon. Now, I say a rusty spoon because I don't really want to hurt anybody, but I want to tap their heads just a little bit, like for 5 minutes, just tap, 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 tap on the top of their head to help them understand how I feel when their ridiculous bass is playing outside my house. That's the type of bass that's recorded in this song. Okay? That's how terrible this song is. This is not real bass. This is electronic nonsense bass, and it's terrible for every headphone. At lower volume, I'm now at 9 o'clock, I can stand this song. It's not sibilant, even though her voice gets close to sibilant on other headphones. Very good separation of vocal and other instruments. God, her voice is so bad. Okay, stop. I can't take any more of that. Ugh. God, maybe she sounds better in other songs. I don't know if she has any other songs that she's sang, but this is awful. Now you might be asking, why do you have it on your test playlist? For this reason, so I can torture myself. Okay, now I've got the classics plugged in. Volume is at, let me see what it's at. It's at 11 o'clock. Oh, here we go again. All right. Definitely more air in the song. And now what I'm going to listen for is whether that bass distortion comes out as it did on the closed. No. The bass distortion is not as much as it was on the close, and it's noticeably different. Her voice still sucks. It's terrible. But it's less bad than it was on the closed. Okay, so talking about the song is totally meaningless. It doesn't matter. Here's the difference. Here's why the classics sound better with this song than the closed did. And it goes back to the physics lesson we just had. A lot of that energy that's involved in this song is propagating outwards. Less of it is reflecting back. Substantially less of it is reflecting into my ear canal. The problem with this song is that there's just so much rumble, unnecessary rumble in the bass, and electronic mumbo jumbo going on, that when the airwaves reflect back into my ear canal with the closed back, it just kind of gets muddled and distorted. That's where most of that distortion from the bass comes from. It's recorded poorly in the song, so it's not the headphones' fault, but with a closed back, it just brings it out more. With an open back, less of that energy is coming back, so there's less of that distortion that's actually coming into my ear canal. The distortion is still there because it's recorded into the song, but I don't hear it. What does that mean? Well, it means that the detail is not there, right? Because that's part of the song. The distortion is the awful recording and the awful vocalist and the awful bass is part of the song. And if that's what you're interested in, for whatever reason, you're going to miss out on it because the closed back versus open back nature of the headphones. Her voice does sound a little bit better on the open back because a lot of the frequency is leaking out. I wish all of her voice would just leak out and not exist, but that's not going to happen. All right, that's enough. I can't take it anymore. Okay, so if you listen to songs like this, go and find the song on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever and listen to it. If that's the type of song that you like, and you want all the detail, you want that rumbly, awful bass, then you want a closed back headphone. You don't want an open back headphone. Bottom line. How did this song perform with either of these headphones? I think it's more pleasurable on the open back, on the classic, for the only reason because I don't hear as much of the detail, and because the detail on this song is god awful. But it's consistent with all the other things I said. There's more detail on the closed back than there is on the classic. Let's go to, how about, let's do Flight from the City by Johan Johansson. It's a fantastic, if you hear that in the background, that's a car's belt that somebody needs to replace. God, that sounds terrible. All right. Flight from the City, beautiful, haunting piano. I have the open back on. Here we go. Increasing volume to 11 o'clock. And at 11 o'clock, my head is covered with sound. Such a soothing, soft sensation. There's no sibilants. There's soundstage, left, right, front, back. So there are a couple of details about this song. There's creaking at the very beginning of the song. Can you hear that? That's my chair. If you can hear it, that's the type of creaking that's present in the recording of this song. At the beginning and throughout this song, as the pianist leans forward, leans back into the piano. Also, the other thing, when the pianist hits down on the keyboard, you hear that thumping on the keyboard. And you hear it a lot throughout the song because it's a piano-heavy song. I'm not getting those details on the classic. I didn't hear the creaking in the movement on the seat. It exists and it's there and it's represented, but it's harder to pick it up on the open back. So that detail is missing. The thumping of the keyboard is present. It's just not as meaty. It's not as satisfying as on other headphones. Is it closed back headphones, for example? Overall sound signature, it's fantastic. It's so warm and soothing and comfortable, and I could sit back and relax and listen to this song on a tube amplifier and fall asleep. I think this is a violin that comes in just about here. Violins can get really peaky and can get really, really distorted, but not on this headphone. It's really smooth and soft and gentle. And it's separated from the piano frequency. And so what I can do, and I have been doing, is I'm listening to the violin on my left ear and trying to pay attention to the piano on my right ear. Try doing that. It's not easy. I don't know if anybody can really do it. Split their hearing between ears, but I'm trying to focus. I can hear details from both at the same time because there is a clear separation of the instruments. Okay, so let's go to the closed. And by the way, I'm using the standard cables for both headphones, the cables that came with the headphones, which are not balanced. I've ordered a balanced cable from Periapt a couple weeks ago. It'll get here when it gets here. They're backlogged. But it shouldn't matter because the Deckard is not a balanced amplifier. Okay, I've got the close back on my head, and let's start again. I'm going to make sure the volume is at 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock, sorry. Here we go. Yep, I heard the creaking. About 2 seconds in to the song, there's a creaking as the pianist leans forward or backward on the stool, the chair that he's sitting on. The piano is sharper, more detailed. And by sharper, I don't mean that it hurts my ears in any way. It's just more detail coming out into my ears. The piano strikes on the keyboard a little bit more pronounced. So the thumping is more pronounced. I hear the electric buzz into in the back of the ear cups. The electric buzz is part of the song, by the way. Did I hear it on the open back? I'm sure I did, but it wasn't pronounced enough for me to comment on it. So I don't know. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. I do not remember noticing it, but it was clearly present just now on the close back. Good separation of all the instruments. There's no muddiness here in any of the frequencies. No sibilants. Again, I hear the creaking as the pianist moves back and forth. Okay. So, very different sound signatures. It's interesting to see how unique each headphone is from the other. So I'll give Audeze this. When they market these headphones, the closed and the classic, what they're saying is the classic has a warmer sound signature. It's the classic design, blah blah blah. Whereas the closed is more analytical and with better bass. They're telling you the truth. That is in fact true. There's more analytical sound coming from the closed back for all the reasons I've already previously stated. And because of the phasor design, I suspect that sound is coming in with a little bit more detail than compared to the classic. The classic is a much warmer sounding headphone. It's very comforting. All the peaks and the lows, everything is kind of more neatly packaged. Well, no, it's not more neatly packaged. I mean the opposite. It's less neatly packaged, meaning there's no particular frequency that hits you harder than the other. Everything is soft and smooth and mellow and really easy to listen to. Compare that to the close back, what happens is there's more detail, substantially more detail on this song on the close back. So you hear the creaking, and it's soft and it's in the background, whereas I didn't hear it on the classics. The piano strikes are more pronounced on the closed back than on the open back. The piano sound itself is a little bit more clinical than on the open back. The open back, what it does is classic. What it does with the piano is that I'm not paying attention as much to each piano note as I am just trying to take in the whole song. It's a pleasurable listening experience. Whereas with the closed, what happens is each note that the pianist hits is accurate. And if I say the word sharp, it's not sibilant. It's not what I mean. It's sharp meaning it's precise. It's to your ear canal. This is the note. Okay, there's no mistaking this is the particular note. Big difference. For a reference class headphone, that's what you want. For an easy listening headphone where you just want to put it on and relax and read a book, fall asleep, blah, 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 you don't really want that, I would think, right? You just want to relax. And that's what the classics do. Okay? So I could keep going on, but I think that the several songs that we've done is fairly representative of what these headphones can do. The closed back, the LCD-2 closed, are very, very good reference class headphones. They produce the sound, I wouldn't say neutral, because I don't know what neutral is. Companies say, we have a neutral headphone, very neutral sounding, no coloration. I don't know what the hell that means. Because every company tries to put a little bit of a spin on their driver. And when they put a little bit of a spin on their driver, meaning they tune it differently, they add or take away certain padding, they use a particular type of membrane, particular thickness or material, open back versus closed back, the type of energy or the amount of power that's required to run it and how many ohms. All that factors in. And so when companies say this is totally neutral, it means that neutral to them, this is what they say neutral is. This is how their frequency should be neutral. That's what they aim for. That's what they stamp as neutral. That's not necessarily neutral. Neutral could be just totally flat bass response throughout the range. That's what I say is neutral. There's no emphasis anywhere. And try to find a pair of headphones that does that. A neutral, quote unquote, neutral pair of headphones that does that. It's very hard to do that. So when companies say our headphones are neutral, take it with several grains of salt. Nevertheless, for reference, the closed is better than the classic. No doubt about it. If you want to spend money on a reference class planar magnetic headphone that's closed back, the LCD-2 closed are fantastic in what they do. Are they the cleanest? Are they the best? Are they the most resolving? No. But if you can find the more recent version, not the older driver, but if you can find the more recent version for anywhere between $500 and $600, yeah, they're definitely worth that price, especially if you're looking for a closed back planar magnetic. This is fantastic. But what if you're looking for a headphone that is easy to listen to, makes you feel good? That's the classic. In my opinion, the classic trumps the closed in the following respect. The classic just lets you enjoy the music. It doesn't produce the music, it doesn't resolve the music with a great amount of detail. Detail is there, but not a substantial amount of detail. What if you increase the volume? Well, when you increase the volume, more of that detail will come out with a good amp DAC, like the Deckard, which is a fairly good amp DAC. More of that detail will come out, but you may not want to do that. Maybe you don't want to crank it up to max, or 10, or 12, or 15, or whatever, however far your amplifier is going to go. Maybe you just want to sit back and relax and listen to the music. Well, that's what these headphones do, but you're not going to get all the detail. If you come home, so here's the difference. You have a hard day at work, and you come home, you grab yourself a bottle of beer, or wine, or tea, or coffee, or whatever, and you just want to sit down in your favorite chair, put on your favorite album, and relax. Give yourself half an hour. I just need to chill. I had a hard day. Which headphone would you pick up? Would you pick up the more analytical headphone, or would you pick up the headphone that says, you know what, let me handle it. You sit back, you relax, let me give you the music. I would think you want the latter. You want the one that's more laid back. That would be the classic. You put those headphones on, plug in your amplifier, your music, and You sit back and relax for 30 minutes and let yourself just, let your muscles relax, let your mind wander as you listen to the music. That's the classic. That's the difference. So they're both very good headphones in their own respect, very different categories. The closed back produces more detail, but the classic, it's just warmer, more pleasurable music when compared A and B. Hopefully that's been some help. Looking forward to additional reviews. What I'm going to do is the review pipeline has the LCD-2 closed compared to the M1060 closed. That's going to happen. And when the Audeze come in, I might just do, I might do a comparison then at that point. I mean, they're completely different headphones. They're not even remotely the same price range, but it might be a fun comparison since I'll have them. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy your music. And if you have any questions or suggestions, obviously leave a comment. Thanks.